Ready, Rob? Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting of the Town of Pinetop-Lakeside Council to order and welcome you all here. We do have a quorum. I would ask that you stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, and please remain standing for the invocation.
If you're inclined, please bow your heads with me. Lord, God, sustainer and creator, we come to you this evening with thanksgiving. Thank you for the freedoms that we enjoy as citizens of the United States of America. Thank you for the beautiful cities of Pinetop and Lakeside. And we give you thanks for our elected officials in this room and for every person here this evening. Lord, you are the source of all wisdom, and we ask that your hand of blessing would be upon this meeting. We pray that you would impart your wisdom to our mayor, city council members, other government leaders as they pursue the welfare of the city and the good of every citizen. Would you give them wisdom to generate plans that are practical, sustainable, and easily implemented? May all of us in this room this evening tackle the topics that need to be discussed with openness, grace, wisdom, and respect for one another. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you very much, Pastor Diane. Item B on our agenda tonight is call to the public. This is a business meeting of the Town of Pinetop-Lakeside. The town values and welcomes public input. Please address the council as a whole and not individual council members. Do not address staff or members of the audience. Council action on items brought up and called to the public is limited by the open meeting law. The council may direct staff to study the matter for a future agenda item. Items on the agenda will not be heard during call to the public, and individuals are limited to 3 minutes. So tonight we have Mr. Tony Alba.
Good evening, Mayor Irwin, Vice Mayor Smith, members of the council. It's a pleasure to be here before you tonight. I'm basically just here to remind all of you, our attendees tonight, and those that are tuning in on Facebook or YouTube, this weekend we've got a great event over at Jack Barker Memorial Park. Tomorrow, Friday, and Saturday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., we've got the town's Easter party. I'm told that the Easter Bunny may make an appearance. We're going to distribute each day 500 bags of pre-stuffed Easter eggs. We've got several businesses from throughout the community that have also donated eggs. We're going to have live music, not live music, we will have music. We've got some decorations. I don't know if any of you have had a chance to go by the park. We started to decorate it today. Really will be a great event. We're happy to be able to do this for the children of our community during this time that we're hopefully coming out of the big crux of COVID. People, we're still encouraging you to wear a mask even though it's an outdoor event. Not going to be enforced because we don't have a mask mandate, but we're asking people to be smart when they're around people not of their own household. So I just wanted to mention that. Again, that'll be Friday and Saturday at Jack Barker Memorial Park, which is right by the library, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. each day. Also, every hour we'll have a golden egg that will be distributed at random, and that will be good for exchange of an Easter basket. So very excited about that. I do want to invite the council and any staff that are available. If you would like to donate a couple of hours and volunteer with us, we'll be out there about 8:30 tomorrow morning. We could use some help. We've got to stuff all those bags. So with that, I'll just invite you all to come out at some point during the weekend, and we look forward to a great event. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tony. That's the only card I have, but I would like to make one comment myself. This is a year anniversary, I guess, of us broadcasting our council meetings on Facebook. I'm not sure if it's a great anniversary or not, but it's been really successful and we're getting the word out to our citizens. And I would also like to take this time to wish Rob Hepner a happy birthday tomorrow. I hope you have a nice birthday, Rob. And we appreciate everything you and Garrett do for us. This is really nice that we are able to get this out to our public. Anyway, thank you. Item C on our agenda is the consent agenda. All items listed on the consent agenda are considered routine matters and will be enacted by one motion of the council. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a member of the council requests that an item or items be removed for discussion. Council members, however, may ask questions on the items without removing it from the consent agenda. Items removed are considered in their normal sequence unless called out of sequence. As you can see, we do have 3 items on our consent agenda tonight. Vice Mayor?
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Thank you. That carries unanimously. Item D is business before the council. Public comment will be taken at the beginning of each agenda item after the subject has been announced by the mayor and explained by staff. Any citizen who wishes may speak one time for 5 minutes on each agenda item before or after council discussion. Questions from council members, however, may be directed to staff or a member of the public through the mayor at any time. Item D1 is a presentation and update from the Navajo County Sheriff's Office. We'd like to welcome Sheriff Klaus, Chief Deputy Swanee, and Sergeant Esparza. You guys can come on up, and I would like to welcome all of our police officers that are here. It's always nice to have you. Thank you for being here.
Okay, thank you. Well, good evening, Mayor and Vice Mayor and members of the council. I'm David Klaus, the Navajo County Sheriff, and I'll introduce our team. This is Brian Swanee, the Chief Deputy, and this is Kyle Esparza. He's the sergeant over their Major Crimes Apprehension Team, or MCAT. There's a few acronyms we'll throw out there, and police seem to be big with acronyms, and I'll try to define those. The reason we're here this evening is to give a quick update on MCAT. MCAT is the Major Crimes Apprehension Team. It's a joint task force that is made up of all the police departments, the Sheriff's Office, the County Attorney's Office within Navajo County. That his primary mission is to work on major crimes. It's a drug task force that works on anything that any of the chiefs of police, the Sheriff's Office, finds that we need to send additional resources at and root out any problems. Oh, sorry, I'll get that up there. I wasn't getting the hint from others, but so the MCAT board is made up of all 5 chiefs of police, the sheriff, and the county attorney's office. And last year, the board made a motion that we should be going around to each of the city councils that invest in this and that participate in the task force and give an update to the councils about the progress of the last calendar year. So this is what we're doing. We've been traveling around to all the city councils and keep presenting on that update. MCAT, brief history on it, has been in existence since the early 90s. Prior to that, there was a task force in the county called ILID. Then in the early 90s, we went to a county-wide task force called MCAT. And MCAT was made up of, and the chief's going to come up and give a statistical update, but it's made up of Pinetop-Lakeside, Sholo, Snowflake Taylor, Holbrook, Winslow, Navajo County Sheriff's Office are the operating officers within that. And historically, they've all been members for well over, now we're talking over 30 years. And they've had a lot of success, and we've always been proud of the great work that they do. And they're always sending great officers. Pinetop-Lakeside's been a long partner with that, and for years they've sent an officer to be a member of that team. Unfortunately, we know that sometimes staffing levels of different agencies get too low, and they have to provide patrol officers first, and sometimes we always are understanding of that. We have Holbrook that has to step out right now. Pinetop-Lakeside's been stepping out because even though they're all here tonight, they look like a big crew, but they've obviously gone through some hiring challenges, and so once they get up to full staffing, we always have the great support of Chief Barnes. So MCAT is funded in 4 different sources. We have a federal grant that we get through HIDA. HIDA is another acronym. It's High Intensity Drug Trafficking Area, which the county was awarded a HIDA designation in 2009, which was a great achievement. We hadn't had anything like that in Arizona for several years, and there hadn't been a new HIDA designation in the Southwest for well over 20 years. And for us to get that we receive not only funding, but training and resources and the support across the state with other HIDA counties. We have another grant called an ACJC grant, which is the Arizona Criminal Justice Commission, which is the Burn JAG. We get money that helps pay for the salaries that when police departments put a member on this team or a detective, that grant helps pay for that that officer's or deputy's salary. And then we also put in $10,000 for overtime. Then we have asset forfeiture, which we use for equipment and other for enforcement. And then we have, of course, general fund, because that grant doesn't meet all of it, so the cities and towns have to match that grant, and they have to meet up the ends. And so when we know in government we throw the word partnership around all the time, right? But I've always felt that this is a true partnership, and this is a real partnership, that we're both, as an agency, we're going out and grabbing these grants, and then the cities are backfilling with the general fund money. And what do you get in return for that? And that's kind of what we wanted to come present tonight. And we know that the criminal activity that goes on in our communities does not see jurisdictional boundaries between Pinetop and Lakeside and the county or Show Low. And even more so, this community, especially in Lakeside, there's so many of those county islands and county cuts that there's so much traffic that flows back and forth. And so that cooperation between both agencies and having our task force not worry about jurisdictional boundaries, but that we look at this as a county issue that we all face and that we all are dedicated to it. And I feel it is a true partnership, because we've always felt that from your police department. Your chiefs have always been very, very supportive of MCAT and help the success and all of that. And we, in turn, always try to provide the best service to your community, because we look at it as our own issue as well. So with that, I'm going to turn the time over to the chief. He's going to come up, give a quick update on some statistics, and if you have any questions, we'll be more than happy to answer those. So thank you.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, staff, thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to come in and speak to you today on the little update on the Major Crimes Apprehension Team. And I'll see if which one do I push? Left one? Right on. All right. So as the sheriff mentioned, this is truly a multi-agency task force. And this slide here kind of outlines who our partnering agencies are and who participating partners are. And the sheriff's office serves as the management agency of the task force. It's kind of based out of Holbrook. We do have a South County resource place where Sergeant Esparza has an office there, and the South County detectives work out of an office in Show Low. But they pretty much travel all over the county, literally county-wide. Show Low Police Department is an active participant with a detective assigned, as well as Winslow. As the sheriff said, we are a little short right now, and a lot of that is based on staffing concerns that all agencies are kind of suffering from right now. But another partner, a participating agency, is going to be the HIDA, the DPS Criminal Investigations Unit, and the State Gang Task Force, U.S. Marshal's Office, ATF out of Flagstaff, Homeland Security Investigations out of Flag, the FBI, both out of Flagstaff, and Pinetop, focused on Indian country crimes. We partner with them as well because, again, jurisdictional boundaries, they don't see the, criminals don't recognize, all right, I'm passing Rim Road, I'm on the reservation. They don't care. So having that partnership with the federal agencies allows us to partner with them and target criminals that are going back and forth across the res lines. And then obviously the Navajo County Probation Department. One that I don't have listed on here is the White River Police Department and the Navajo Nation Police Department. We partner with them quite frequently as well. Just some quick statistics from 2020. Now, I'm gonna throw a little disclaimer out here. I don't want these cops in the back of the room to make fun of you and say, hey, I got more arrests than that last year. But actually, I'm not on the arrest slide. I'm on the drug seizure side. When starting in about the first part of February of 2020, the sheriff and I sat down and talked about how we wanted to kind of update MCAT, make it more efficient. We were looking at a lot of areas within the sheriff's office to look at efficiency, conduct an audit, and make some appropriate changes. And so we looked at how MCAT was operating, and we kind of shut them down from February to July 1 and did a retool. We kind of went in, did a little house cleaning inside the shop, did a little remodeling, and literally remodeling paint, carpet, and whatnot, and kind of started over. So July 1, the mission moving forward was based on intelligence-led policing. And you can get much more bang for your buck if you sit back, you do your examinations, you do your investigations, you find out who's who in the game, and then you start working towards those target individuals. And in the criminal investigations world, that's called intelligence-led policing. So we implemented that concept into that, led by Sergeant Esparza and Lieutenant Williams, and sent the guys out. They're basically starting off with really no sources, nothing in the hopper, if you will, and started off fresh. So just from July to the end of December, these are some of the seizure statistics. Methamphetamine, 166 pounds of methamphetamine. Methamphetamine is sold in our communities by the gram. So you start looking at about how many grams 166 pounds is. It's incredible the reach that amount of methamphetamine can have on our community. Heroin, we all know about heroin. 15.6 pounds of heroin was seized. Heroin is sold by the point, which is about the size of the tip of your ballpoint pen. That's what that's sold as, is by the point. Cocaine, cocaine's not nearly as popular as it used to be because the methamphetamine is far more potent, get a longer last out of it. Because criminals are looking at what's the best quality, right? We get more bang for the buck for less money. Marijuana, even though the Prop 207 has changed the way we do some business involving marijuana, it's still illegal to haul around 400 pounds in the trunk of your car. So they seized 449 pounds of marijuana. This next number here is absolutely phenomenal. 53,000 fentanyl pills. I'm sure everyone in this room here has paid attention or seen the information that's being provided through the Nexus Coalition and through different sources on the dangers of fentanyl. Fentanyl is sold by one pill that's about the size of an Advil, a 200 milligram Advil, about that size. And typically they quarter those things up into fours. And for $30, you can buy one pill, they split it into four, and 4 people can get high. And that one pill could have just 1 grain too much fentanyl in it, and it's deadly. And it's literally Russian roulette. This unit has seized 53,000 fentanyl pills. Phenomenal number. U.S. currency, that U.S. currency is directly related to drug trafficking and drug sales, that $48,000 that was seized from drug sales. Some additional statistics on the proactive enforcement. 96 physical arrests. What that means is that these detectives put handcuffs on 96 separate individuals and took them and booked them into jail. Or they found charges on a subject due to investigations and got a grand jury indictment after they were already in jail. So 96 times people have been arrested for major felony cases, most of them drug-related offenses or weapons offenses. And those 96 arrests, because I looked at that and I'm like, back when I was a state trooper, I could smoke that number no problem. Well, big difference between picking somebody up on a warrant arrest or a DUI arrest and conducting a multi-day criminal felony investigation that results in that arrest. So those numbers, and basically it's a half a year. So you double that potentially, and that's where they were at. Very proud of those numbers. Agency assist. The team assisted other agencies, which can consist of every agency within our county, state agencies, federal agencies, tribal entities, a total of 323 times where somebody has called for assistance regarding an investigation, and they've either simply provided some assistance with writing a search warrant, or they were geared up and kicked a door down on a high risk event. Speaking of search warrants, they've served 95 search warrants. 16 of those were at residential structures. Now, just to sit down and write a search warrant, you're looking at about an hour of writing to put it into play, let alone all the probable cause that you have to develop to put into the affidavit. So every search warrant that's written is followed or is preceded by many, many hours of investigation to establish that probable cause to put into that affidavit in order to serve the warrant. And the other 45 were, there's 45 vehicle search warrants. What I don't have up there is how many warrants were written on electronic devices, phones, computers, iPads, whatnot. And those also take a significant amount of time. The agency assist that MCAT has provided right here in Pinetop-Lakeside upon request of the police department was a total of six times during this past year. So it's really tough to take 6 months of the work that these fine detectives have done and try to put it into a 5-minute presentation, a 4-page PowerPoint presentation. But I just kind of wanted to go over a couple of highlighted situations, and then I'm going to throw another one on the back side that I don't have listed here. But the first 2 bullet points was a fentanyl sales operation in the city of Snowflake. Both of them were the same targets, same suspects. They get arrested following an overdose call that the Snowflake-Taylor Police Department took. They called for assistance or support from MCAT. MCAT was able to follow up that investigation resulting from an overdose of a teenager, and was able to serve a search warrant into the cellar of that fentanyl pill, or the fentanyl pills, and seized, on that one, 200 fentanyl pills that were obviously packaged and ready for continuous sale in the town of Snowflake-Taylor. Also seized some cash that was directly tied to the drug sales. That was in July. In November, these very same subjects became on our forefront again after they were released from jail. And it was as a result of another overdose situation. This time, they're in jail for a long time. But during that one, another 50 fentanyl pills was seized, and $2,500 in U.S. currency was also seized. So it takes a lot of work. We're just the executive branch of government. We're not the judicial side, so we don't get to dictate how long somebody stays in jail. We just have to enforce. So those two cases right there, those individuals, I do not anticipate that they're going to be selling any more fentanyl on the streets of Snowflake-Taylor. In August, Show Low PD had information on a dangerous drug sales case, and the detectives responded and assisted with them, seizing 81 fentanyl pills, some methamphetamine, heroin, and marijuana. I mean, they had the whole cachet. This was a traffic stop that was made in Show Low by a Show Low PD officer. The detectives responded to the scene, conducted interviews, did some additional follow-up, recognized that these drugs were destined for the city of Show Low, and they were able to work this backwards, and we worked with a partner down in Maricopa County attached to HIDA, and now that case, we kicked that case over to them, and they're continuing to work that drug sales ladder down out of the Phoenix metropolitan area. Another one that I want to talk about right here locally, and this one is not, I'm going a little bit off script, and if I make an error, please let me know, Sergeant Esparza, but about 4 months ago, the sheriff and I met with the MCAT leadership and said, we know there's a problem with drug sales going on in the Heber-Overgaard area. Heber-Overgaard is the largest unincorporated community that is the primary responsibility of the sheriff's office. So the MCAT detectives working with the local community, working with the local patrol officers, were able to identify 3 main suppliers of drugs, namely methamphetamine and fentanyl. in the community of Heber Overgard. Through traditional investigative techniques, they worked tirelessly for the last 4 months working on these individuals, developing information to put into an affidavit to serve search warrants on their residences. Search warrants have been constantly been served over the last few months. We have seized, I don't have the statistics in front of me, but a significant amount of methamphetamine, a significant amount of fentanyl pills, a significant amount of currency that's directly tied to the drug sales, and they've wrapped up a grand total of all three of the main targets in Heber. The detectives use informants, and an informant informed one of our detectives, you can't find any drugs in Heber right now. It's dry. That, in my career, I've never been able to say I have completely taken out the drug problem in a community. Now, with that being said, these guys are all in jail. Somebody else is going to pick up the torch, and they're going to run with it. But these guys are now ready for them, and we got a handle on it. Now we've got to stay on top of it. Problem is, other areas around the county need attention as well. And as the detectives move and target another area, that's going to allow the drug dealers to pop back up. Again, manpower is a concern. If I had double the amount of detectives, I could do the double amount of work. But it is what it is, and I'm very, very proud of Sergeant Esparza, his lieutenant, Sergeant Lesperance, and the detectives. These guys work nights, weekends, holidays, and we tell them on the front side when they come from another agency or they're coming from inside the sheriff's office, if you're coming to MCAT because you want to work Monday through Thursday, 8 to 4, wrong assignment. And they know that. They all agree to it, and we work these guys pretty hard. But they're all very motivated and committed to the public safety in our county, and I'm very, very proud of these men. So, with that, I don't have anything further to share with you. More than welcome to answer any questions, or just don't throw anything at me. But the sheriff, myself, the sergeant, we're all open for any questions that you may have on this topic or any other topic.
I will guarantee we won't throw anything at you. That's a personal guarantee.
Yes, ma'am.
Counselor
I'm
Hastings.
interested in the efficiency of the dogs that are being used, drug sniffing dogs. How valuable are they in comparison to
Can you get your
a gentleman officer?
So I missed part of that. How efficient are they in assisting the officer?
Yes.
Oh, they're a phenomenal partner.
What's the cost of a
Oh,
dog?
the cost.
Yes.
So a dog is a trained dog. You're going to spend about $20,000 just for the dog, and then you've got to have the dog, and typically the dog is trained at that point in time, and then you have to train the handler to work with the dog as a team. So you're $20,000-$25,000 to get going. That doesn't include the car, and the car is not just a typical police car. It's a kennel. It's a rolling kennel.
Right.
And the cars are very expensive as well. And they typically require additional equipment for the dog as well. The leashes and the body armor vests and whatnot. So it can be very, very pricey for a dog. Sure.
How many dogs do we have in this presentation you made with all these agencies?
One dog. Yes, ma'am.
One dog? How many would you like to have?
About 4.
4.
Yes,
okay.
We've ran at one point, we've operated with 3 dogs with the county. But we're down to 1, and we have a couple applications, or a couple people that are putting in. We're going to promote a couple more people, and we like to run around with about 3. But Pinetop, or I don't know what Pinetop uses, but I know Sholo has a dog, Snowflake has a dog. Holbrook does.
Holbrook.
Winslow, they each have about 1.
Yeah.
We also
And we
have one.
Pinetop's got 1.
We have one, yes.
Sorry, whoever it is.
I can ask one more question. I see that there's $48,000 in U.S. currency. How long does that take to get through your departments and the judicial system? Or is it ever do you ever get it back? Do you pass it forward? What happens to it?
So that's part, when I talked about the 4 funding sources, that's the asset forfeiture. So that is there's a criminal process that they are for charged. Then there's the civil process that we do. The county attorney's office will do a civil asset forfeiture on that. It can take a couple months, a year, it just depends on how much litigation there is in court with that. What we do with it afterwards is basically, I say 4 things. We invest not only back in equipment, we buy dogs with it. We buy kennels and different things like that. We buy shields and different things to protect these officers that are working those cases. Then we invest back in the schools. Chief Barnes sits on the asset forfeiture board, this MCAT board, and every year we take different votes of how we're going to spend that. And we're looking to do education prevention. A big part of this is we're aggressively seizing this money from these drug dealers. It's direct sales that money's coming, and we're trying to find ways to prevent that. And we found investing not only with the schools is a big one because that's our most vulnerable ages. So we always give back to all the schools, and then we give back to these treatment programs and a lot of these, like Walking Down Ranch right here in Lakeside, right? I don't want to get the wrong community. We give back to them because they help with a lot of times when we have people that are addicted to drugs, sometimes Walking Down Ranch and the other shelters throughout the county, we give donations to them. And it comes from these drug sales or these drug seizures that we're hoping that, hey, let's take this, instead of people using this money to buy drugs, let's give it to people to help them get off of drugs. So education, prevention, enforcement, and then treatment.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Councilor Watson.
First, thank you very much for your presentation. Good job. In your statistics, do you have number of deaths related to these drug seizures and overdoses?
I do not, and that's a great thing. I probably should have put in there just prior to us starting this. We did get a report from the medical examiner's office of per community and what drug or what combination of drugs were involved in overdoses, and it gave age range. I did not include that in here, and I don't recall the statistics right off the top of my head.
That's a great question. Obviously it's on the rise. I think you've all seen, we've posted some, a lot of social media and news releases on it. Fentanyl has definitely doubled that. We're seeing it in Pinetop, Sholo, Snowflake, Winslow. We don't have the number on that, but that's something we are tracking now. In fact, studies with like ASU, we just entered into an MOU with ASU where they're doing a lot of studies on that. So we're sharing with the Navajo County Medical Examiner's Office. We're sharing that information with them as they're compiling data from across the state. And not a scientific look at it, but it's almost doubling because of fentanyl.
Vice Mayor?
Yeah, you mentioned the drugs, the cash. What about weapons? And what do you do with them?
So weapons will, if they're legal weapons, we'll take them, we'll check them through some sources to make sure they haven't been involved in some sort of a crime, and then they're returned if it's legal to do so. If there's a weapon in, if a subject that's involved in a drug offense, a felony drug offense, is in possession of a weapon, that's an additional charge, and that gun is seized. A lot of these individuals that the MCAT is targeting are all prohibited possessors. They've got a lengthy criminal history, and they're not allowed to have weapons due to their rights being taken away from them. And in that case, we seize those weapons, and we keep them as evidence through the course of the trial and appeal process, and then ultimately those guns are either destroyed if they're altered or an illegal weapon, or some of them we'll trade them to an authorized dealer for ammunition for training of our deputies.
Thank you very much again. Great presentation. Thanks.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you for everything that you do in our county, our region, and our community. You're much appreciated.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, we look forward to seeing you again anytime you want to come.
All right.
Welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate you putting us on the agenda. Thank you.
Okay, then we'll go ahead and move on. Chief, come on up. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. I just wanted to thank the Sheriff's Office for the Sheriff, Chief Deputy, and Sergeant Esparza for all they do for the county. They do a tremendous amount of work all over the county and even outside this county to protect the county itself. They're a great partner with us. We appreciate all they do for us, and we're hopeful in the near future that we can get a member on the team, because I think it's important that they can have as many members as they can to do what they need to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Okay, we'll move on then to item D2 is information and presentation regarding eliminating overdue fees at the Pinetop-Lakeside Public Library. Bridget.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. I am grateful for the opportunity to have a little bit of time to go into some details about the opportunity that we have to eliminate overdue fines at the library. Included in your packet is a resolution that was done by the American Library Association in January of 2019. And this was done after a lot of research, surveys, studies, reaching out to rural libraries, urban libraries, trying to figure out how the use of the library could be impacted by fees. And what they found is that there are several barriers that come from fees, and they normally affect the most vulnerable, the people that are least likely or able to pay them. So we're not asking for any action tonight. If we decide to go fine free, it will be part of the fee schedule that will be presented to you at a later date. So just giving a little bit of information and giving you the opportunity to ask some questions and get some clarification if you need any. So some of the barriers that they found is that it's a barrier to the community and goodwill. It's unfortunately, relationships get severed by something as small as an overdue fee, and people decide not to come back to the library and use our services because they don't want to or they can't pay the fee. So when we've had some time since libraries have decided to implement fine free, to see how it affects. And what they found is that circulation increased, items were returned sooner or on time, and that patron use was increased. So these are all great things that we want for our community. So one of the misnomers that I'd like to address is that if we eliminate fines, there's no accountability. And like I said, there's several libraries that have already done this, and what they've found is that is not true. Items are coming back, and there's actually been an increase in assumed lost items being returned to the library, because it was kind of like a psychological thing. People thought, oh, I owe a fee on this, I might as well keep the book. So some libraries have received hundreds of thousands of assumed lost items, which is hundreds of thousands of dollars that come back to the library that other patrons can use. So some regional considerations that I think are important is to look at the surrounding libraries, and especially in Navajo County Library District, which we're a member of. Snowflake, Holbrook and Show Low are already fine-free. They went in 2018, and in 2018 we eliminated children's fees. So that was a great start. This year, Snowflake Taylor, Winslow, Hopi, and hopefully us will begin the process of going fine-free. And so that will put us on even playing ground with the libraries that are closest to our patrons. So instead of driving down to Show Low to check out items that they know they won't get late fees on, they can stay here in our area and utilize our library. So I know in the budget meeting that we had a little while ago, there were some questions about financial impact and how much money are we talking. So I have been working with the Navajo County Library Director to try and get some reports to see how much money are we really talking. And it's complex because when an overdue fee isn't considered a bill. So he was able to work with our software provider, do some testing. We're not quite 100% sure how accurate the numbers are, but I can tell you that it's way less than $1 per item average for the overdue fee. So I think that moving to fine-free is going to be a great benefit to our patrons. It's going to increase the goodwill in our community. It's going to remove the barrier for vulnerable populations, low-income citizens, and I really hope that when the time comes for the fee schedule that we'll consider all these things and really think what we want to, provide to our community going forward. Are there any questions or concerns?
Questions for Bridget? Councilor Buse?
Now, my understanding is somebody loses a book, they still will be charged for that. Right? You're
Correct.
just talking about late fees and that kind of
Yes,
stuff.
correct. Sorry, I should have clarified that. Any item that's lost would be charged to the patron. This is just for overdue fees, so a day, 5 days. It caps at $5, and after 90 days, it's assumed loss and is charged to the patron's account.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So Kevin, is this going to break our budget?
I think we'll survive.
Honestly,
Sorry, bad joke.
we collect very, very little of this. So even if it's way less than $1, the likelihood that we'll collect that is slim to none.
So you said it's $1 per item, per late item, right?
Yeah, so yes, of all the records that we have, the average would be less than $1. Yeah, and again, that's a little tricky to do because of the fee and the bill situation, and that includes lost items, and we also have children's material, that shouldn't have had an overdue fee, as well as we suspended fees during COVID. So that's why I can't give you an exact number. It's a little complicated, and we could if we went through every single item, but it's probably not worth the time and effort. Correct. Yes.
Any other questions or comments? I look forward to you bringing this back to us for action.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on then to item D3 is consider accepting resolution number 21-1574 and authorizing the town of Pinetop-Lakeside to approve the grant acceptance and enter into contract with the Arizona Governor's Office of Highway Safety Prop 207 Fund. Commander.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, Town Manager, and staff, good evening. The Pinetop-Lakeside Police Department works very closely with the Governor's Office of Highway Safety. We have, since I've been here, the last 11 years, we've applied for a grant for overtime. All 11 years, and each year we received that grant funding. In January of this year, they contacted us and requested that we submit a proposal for the Prop 207 funding, which was the recreational marijuana. That grant was for equipment or training that had to do with impaired driving and DUI driving with drugs involved or alcohol. We applied for a grant with the caveat that the Pinetop-Lakeside Police Department would outfit the vehicle with a in-car camera, moving radar, and portable breath test equipment to the tune of just over $8,000. We received authorization for the grant to purchase a brand new Tahoe patrol vehicle for impaired driving enforcement. That grant was for $55,462.36. And that includes upfitting for the vehicle to add all the police equipment that's required to operate the vehicle as a police car. I move to adopt and approve Resolution 21-1574 authorizing town of Pinetop.
I think that's our job.
Oh, sorry.
That's what we say.
That's what we, yeah.
We do. I was helping.
You were prompting us. Anyway, are there any questions for Commander Willis?
Yes.
Councilor Buse, would you like to make the motion?
Yes, I move that we accept this resolution number 21-1574 and authorize the town of Pinetop-Lakeside to approve this grant acceptance and enter into contract with the Arizona Governor's Office of Highway Safety Proposition 207 Fund.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 21-1574. Further discussion? All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Thank you. This is wonderful news. We appreciate all your work on this, Commander.
Yep.
Okay, moving on to item D4. This is our police evening, I believe. We are going to consider approval of the 2021 Police Department Salary Plan Amendment. Keith.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, Council, and grateful to have the officers of our department and staff here tonight. You know, over the course of the past 4+ years that I've been here, this council has supported the chief and our officers in many ways. They've done that by ensuring that they have the tools that they need to do their jobs. We've done this through, when I first came on, I was surprised to learn that our officers were purchasing their own firearms. And that just didn't seem right. And so we finally were able to help them out and purchase firearms. That was one of the first things we did. Then we began making a regular item in the budget to purchase vehicles because the fleet was very aged and we needed to get rid of them. And in many ways, these things take years to be able to accomplish. We can't ever, there's always a big set of things that need to happen, whether it's in the police department or in all of our departments within a community. And so we try to get this each year. We try to add and improve everything. So over the years, we've included the purchase of firearms for the officers, their training, their vehicles, their pay scale changes that we've had in 2018, raises every year. Recently, the council approved a bond to build a new police department. We had thought we were going to have to do this kind of piecemeal each year, but that was going to take years to accomplish. Unfortunately, circumstances, maybe the stars aligned right, and a new tax was being collected through online purchases. It's not something that we implemented, but it came through the state and was taxes that should have been collected. But that was new revenue to the town. So rather than raise a tax to build the building, we were able to divert these funds to that. And now again before you is an adjustment to their pay scale again. In 2018, the town council approved a new salary plan, and I put a copy of that current plan in front of you. We did that for the officers of the department, and this was necessary because departments throughout our region and county had made significant changes to their own salary plans. An interesting thing that back in 2018 that I found when I was comparing salary or pay scales between the other departments in Navajo and Apache County was that the three highest paying departments were municipalities, and they had a Walmart. And the other communities were lagging behind in being able to keep up with those three cities. And so we decided that we needed to still go forward and try to be competitive. So in 2018, the council approved at that time a new salary plan. We find that police departments nationwide are finding it more difficult to find qualified candidates due to the current climate of intense scrutiny on police officers. This request before you tonight is made in order to help us to remain competitive with departments in our region and to help retain the staff we have. We've included in this scale, in each of these steps, a 3% increase. And we kept it at 3% because that traditionally is what we have offered every year, is a 3%. And the department spends a tremendous amount also to train our officers, and it's in our best interest to help to do all that we can to retain them and to adequately compensate them. Each month, the council receives a report from the police department detailing many of the incidents and crimes that we have within our community. Some of them we get a good chuckle from when we read those reports, but others are quite alarming. And we know that our officers, the men and women of this department, are putting their lives on the line every day. And we truly appreciate all of their efforts. The men and women of this department do a tremendous job working to help keep crime at bay and to protect and serve our citizens. One additional thing that is on this scale that's different than the one in 2018 and any in the past is we've added the detective's position. Previously, the detective salary was, commensurate with the officers, and so we've separated that out. And so, by studying what other departments have done in the region, we believe that we're at least in line with, maybe not the highest paying, but sheriff's gone. We're going to be equal with the sheriff's department. So that was my gauge, was their recent changes. Now, all of our employees are important, and with changes that have recently happened in other departments, we wanted to bring this to you before the regular budget season. This increase will take place beginning this Sunday, April the 4th, and so it'll be about a quarter's worth of increase in their budget. And so revenues coming in have been more than adequate, and we believe that we can continue to support this increase. Now, as I started to say earlier, all of our employees are important, and we recognize all of their efforts. And so in this next budget, we'll be asking for an additional amount to do a salary study for across the board for all departments. And so, and we'll see where we stand when that gets completed. So, and I don't know what that'll entail, but that'll be in the next budget. But we wanted to get this one now to help to keep our officers and to properly and compensate them. And in my thoughts, we owe them a lot, and we appreciate each one.
Thank you for all your work on this. Are there questions, comments from the council? Yes.
I was going to ask you how we compare to the Walmart communities, but
oh, okay.
What I heard you say is we will be even now with this new one with the county. Is that right?
With the county.
Okay.
Yeah.
How are we with the other municipalities? Just out of curiosity. I
think we're still behind Sholo. Taylor and Snowflake and Taylor, their department, and Winslow were the others. I haven't seen. I know they did a recent change, but I did not check to see what they were exactly at now.
Thanks.
At least we're trying to get up there.
Yep.
Doing the best. So this $89,000 is for a budget year.
A budget year,
Budget
yes.
year.
Yeah, increase. Yeah.
And I know we have that in our contingency.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. Vice Mayor?
So it does not include benefits. So what about, is there any kind of a major impact on the PSPRS nut that we're trying to crack?
I'll let Kevin address that. Yeah.
Well, everything's going to look different after the bond happens because, we're only going to have current year liability. So what you've been seeing in benefits is going to go way down because of the bond cost that we'll be paying off. So all we'll have is the current PSPRS liability. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, I just want to make sure it's not a major deal breaker for our bond or anything.
That amount of salary for current year contributions to PSPRS is not going to be substantial. And this salary increase will not do anything to the other benefits as far as health insurance or contributions to the HSA accounts or anything like that.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Buse?
I'd move that we approve the 2021 Police Department Salary Plan Amendment.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we adopt the 2021 Pinetop-Lakeside Police Department Salary Plan. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Thank you. That carries unanimously. Thank you again for everything that you all do, and we're really looking forward to getting your new building. Very much so. Keith, thank you for all your work on this. I know that was time-consuming as well. That concludes our business this evening. I'd like to wish everybody a happy Easter, a safe Easter, and enjoy this beautiful weather. Thank you. Meeting